evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's James here for Live Chat with James, coming to you from the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. The time now is 12:41 a.m. and we are bringing you more stories about British Columbia, Canada, and the cross-border concerns about the data breaches. The U.S. security data breach by the Doge team, of course, has given a lot of concern for countries who have tax treaties with the United States. The potential links gave Elon Musk and the Doge teams information on Canadian citizens as well as other foreign citizens around the globe. This is a very large concern, and it is against international treaties and also when it comes to privacy laws. So there's a lot of concern out there about this. We also take a look at the link of the Sinaloa Cartel with gangs and criminality in the city of Surrey and across Canada. We also look at concerns by citizens of the city of Surrey, concerned about the growing violence in the community after several shootings this week and a police-involved shooting yesterday as well. Fortunately, nobody has been killed in the acts that happened last night or yesterday, but there have been recent deaths in shootings throughout the city and the Lower Mainland. We look at various stories coming to you and the concerns that are growing by the community and by the city, the law enforcement agencies, and so forth. And some of them may have to do with the transition in the city of Surrey from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police being the police service of choice for the city, now transitioning, of course, to the Surrey Police Service in the city of Surrey in British Columbia. That transition has grown some concern about the impact on the ability for the transition period to have effective policing and to cut down the violent crime. The question is whether or not the criminal activity is linked to that, and whether or not the criminal gangs have tied into the knowledge that there may be some gaps there in coverage while the transition continues. Welcome, Tyler, to the live chat. Liverpool fan, PRCXTRR, Patrick Ford. Welcome, everybody. If you have comments or topics that you'd like to discuss, by all means, put them up on the screen. We're happy to discuss any of the topics coming up. But let's start with Surrey grappling with the surge of violent incidents in the city. Now, residents of Surrey are expressing growing concern following a recent uptick in shootings and other violent incidents across the city. Law enforcement and city officials are working to address the escalating situation, but community members are calling for increased action. Recent events have included a late-night shooting just over 24 hours ago, actually not far from where we're situated in South Surrey. And that had resulted in one person being hospitalized with gunshot wounds. Two suspects did flee the scene. There was a car chase, but the police were able to pursue them. And when the suspects crashed their car and tried to take flight on foot, a police dog was also utilized to help bring them into custody. The quiet neighborhood is quite shaken by this situation that happened last night, and it happened just hours after a police-involved shooting. The police-involved shooting, fortunately, did not result in any major injuries. There were no police officers injured. Nobody in the general public was injured. And we don't know if the suspect was injured at all. He was taken into custody and remains in custody, so we do not assume that there was much involved in that shooting, except that it is under investigation because, again, an officer did discharge their firearm in the line of duty. With that said, the individual was accused of trying to steal from the police officers at a time which they were responding to an unrelated call. A scuffle broke out, and again, shots were fired. We don't know much more than that. We're just waiting on more information to come in on that incident in itself. We'll report more on that tomorrow night's show, and we'll go from there. But concerns across the city, of course, reports of increased gang activity and public disturbances have created a sense of unease among the Surrey residents. Public concern is being raised by the Surrey Board of Trade, stating that violence is hurting the city's brand, as well as members are worried about the safety of themselves and their families. And that extends beyond the Board of Trade, of course. Businesses are concerned about the impacts of increased crime on their business, as well as their personal safety and their families as well. Now, the Surrey Police Service, along with the RCMP, have stated that they are dedicating resources to investigate these incidents and increase patrols. However, the recent violence has reignited discussions about policing strategies and community safety. We will be reaching out to the Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke, and we'll find out what the city is looking at in terms of short and long-term strategies to deal with this. But again, we do know that they are in a transition period. The new Surrey Police Service is getting augmented by the British Columbia RCMP. Now, the Surrey RCMP has been dissolved when it comes to policing in the city. So again, the ongoing transition from the RCMP to the Surrey Police Service continues to be a point of contention. Some argue that the transition itself is hindering effective policing, and we'll keep an eye on that. Community policing programs are increasing. The city officials and community leaders are emphasizing the importance of investing in youth programs and social initiatives to address the root causes of violence. And another part of that would be the province and the federal government need to step up and step forward to help to curb the crime. When you do not put the resources and the services in place for young criminals to try to get them to move along and transition to a better place in life, to give them the supports that they need and the programs they need, then of course when you fail that, you are failing the future citizens or the future of our city. It's important that these programs be brought in and you curb the criminality and that mindset before it becomes permanent. And that is what's happening, is that a lot of resources are not spent on petty crimes, on small crimes, and prosecutions are not seen as serious or as necessary. If you spent more time dealing with the entry-level criminals, you could probably curb off a lot more in terms of the long-term and longevity of their criminal life and recidivism of those who are newly into the world of crime. And a lot of time that starts with youth, giving them options, giving them alternatives, and keeping them busy with other programs that allow them to be a part of something. And that, unfortunately, is what the gangs that are recruiting look at. They want to be able to look at people who are isolated, youth who may not feel a part of a clique or a group. As a human being, we all have that need or that desire to be accepted, to feel like we're a part of a peer group. And again, when that fails, it makes it much easier for the gangs to move in and recruit these individuals, give them that false sense of belonging. And that is what they prey on. So again, it's important to keep that in mind as you look at resources that are spent on youth and intervention programs. It's a very big thing that's necessary in today's society. Now, there's federal funding coming into the city of Surrey for crime prevention programs and the intent of stopping violence before it starts. And a part of that, again, needs to be rerouted into these youth programs, as well as programs for youth who are already into the criminal justice system to help to give them a future. For me personally, I think that anybody at any age, when you are involved in criminality, and if you are sentenced, if you're convicted and sentenced to in custody time, I believe that it should be mandatory that all inmates are forced to take courses to actually get their GED or their grade 12 graduate level education, and offer more in terms of education above that for those who are interested, or maybe even trades. And this way you can start to curb the recidivism rates. You can turn people around away from crime. You can give them a life and a future, give them a sense of accomplishment, and that, you can make them, basically contributing members of society instead of being a drain on society. So I think that's where we're failing as well in our rehabilitation services that are offered through the criminal justice system and correction services. Unfortunately, like a lot of nations, the money is not spent on the rehabilitation part of corrections, and whether that's at the federal level of Corrections Canada or at the provincial level, whether it's Ontario, none of it, British Columbia, anywhere across the nation, we need to look at that and try to arm them with education and knowledge instead of just incarcerating them and letting them go to the school of hard knocks. So again, we need to look at that as a way to reduce the crime rates. When we understand the community's concerns, and the spokesman for the City of Surrey's police service said that, as I was started there, we understand the community's concerns. We are committed to ensuring public safety. And again, they are in a transition period, folks, so we got to remember that. We are working diligently to apprehend those responsible for these crimes and to implement strategies to prevent future incidents. Residents are urged that if they suspect nefarious activity or see anything else suspicious, that they reach out to the police service and make a report and have that dealt with. Once again, citizens are concerned. There's a lot of violence going on in the city. It's growing. And a part of that has to do with the drug problems, not only in terms of the users, but also the gateway. Of course, we're here on the Pacific Ocean. There's a lot of opportunity for gangs and others to smuggle drugs in across the border, whether that is the southern border with the U.S., or through containers coming in from Asia or other locations. But again, we also have a lot of smuggling going on from Mexico and more southern regions as well. And that has become a big concern. It's recently been disclosed that a major drug lab and drug operation that was busted in British Columbia, again in Surrey, that had links to the Sinaloa Cartel out of Mexico. For that story, we'll take a look here. In the shadow of the cartel, Surrey's underworld gripped by Sinaloa's reach. And that article, again, will be available on our YouTube in the post section, as well as our other different social media platforms. We'll post the articles so you can read them in their entirety or to give them a bit closer look. But let's take a look at this article, which reads, the quiet suburban streets of Surrey have become a battleground in a silent war as evidence mounts that the Sinaloa Cartel's insidious infiltration into the local drug trade. Recent RCMP raids and explosive civil forfeiture lawsuits have peeled back the veneer of normalcy, revealing a chilling network of transnational crime operating in the heart of the city. It spreads its tentacles across the nation. For months, whispers have circulated, but now the evidence is undeniable. Law enforcement officials have confirmed that the sophisticated drug trafficking operation with direct ties to the notorious Mexican cartel has taken root in Surrey. A super lab dismantled by the RCMP revealed industrial-scale drug production fueling a distribution network that stretches far beyond the city limits. The details emerging from civil forfeiture lawsuits paint a harrowing picture. Documents allege that local individuals have been engaged in high-stakes negotiations with the Sinaloa Cartel members, attempting to import massive quantities of cocaine from Mexico. These legal documents expose a world of clandestine meetings, coded communications, and constant threat of violence. And again, we just spoke about the violence and the increase of such in the city of Surrey. This isn't just about drugs on the street. Stated a source within the RCMP speaking on condition of anonymity. This is about the destabilizing influence of transnational organized crime. They bring with them not just drugs, but also violence, corruption, and a complete disregard for human life. And again, we revert back to the previous story. The recent RCMP raids on heavily fortified residences have yielded staggering results. Massive drug seizures, caches of high-powered weapons, and vast sums of cash. The sheer scale of these operations underscores the depth of the cartel's entrenchment. Residents are grappling with the unsettling reality that their community has become a hub for international drug trafficking. It's terrifying to think that this is happening in our own backyard, said one Surrey resident who wished to not be named. We used to feel safe here, but now it feels like we're living in a war zone. The RCMP stresses that their investigations are ongoing and they are committed to dismantling these criminal networks. However, the fight against the Sinaloa Cartel is a complex and challenging one, requiring international cooperation and a relentless pursuit of justice. Now, this story just serves as a stark reminder of the tentacles of organized crime that can reach into any community, shattering the illusion of safety and security. With that said, of course, that has been a talking point of the United States government, including the President Trump administration, in regards to the Sinaloa Cartel and Mexican influence in the drug trade and gang activity that's been gripping Canada. It is a story here about the city of Surrey and the reach of the Sinaloa Cartel into this city. But again, don't be fooled. It is a cross-country issue. Whether it is the Sinaloa Cartel or others, they are spreading out across the nation. They are also using this as a hub of manufacturing for other substances, from methamphetamine and so forth, that they can then distribute from this point to other points of receivership throughout the world. You got to keep in mind that Canada has initiated over $1 billion spending spree on the border security, including the use of new Black Hawk helicopters to try to cut down on cross-border smuggling, whether that is narcotics and other substances or it's human smuggling. Just last week, again, in Alberta, I believe it was, there was a family, 2 adults and 1 child, who were found after they made a distress call, calling 911 when they were lost and almost frozen to death in the Canadian wilderness. They crossed the border. These folks were not prepared for the winter conditions that they were subjecting themselves to. They were all hospitalized, but they did make it through, so that was the bright side of it. The downside of it is that these human smugglers and what they call the donkey routes are being utilized and exploiting those who are desperate for a change, whether it is people coming in from India or from Mexico, from El Salvador, or anywhere else worldwide. They are finding refuge, but they are using a lot of these people smugglers and these human traffickers to get them there. These human traffickers don't care about the lives. They are in it for the money, not for any other reason. It would be great to say that they're doing it out of humanity and goodness of their heart, but they're not. They are in it for the money and placing at risk the lives of those who are entrusting them to get them to a new country, to give them a new start, to give them the opportunity for a future for their children. In this case, the 2 young children and the 2 adults were almost frozen to death. They couldn't even move when the rescuers reached them. The rescuers did get them to a nearby ambulance that had to park about a mile away from where they were located, and they were transported to hospital. The 2 adults didn't even have shoes on in the harsh Canadian winter. They are lucky they didn't suffer permanent frostbite to their feet, causing amputation or other permanent injuries. That is a very real risk in Canadian winters, especially in that region. Once again, we encourage people that if you do see things that are suspicious, whether it's at the borders or elsewhere, that you speak out and you call your local authorities. They are the ones to deal with that. Don't try to take it upon yourself to stop people crossing the border because you never know when the smugglers are close by and could put yourself in danger. So again, if you are a witness to a potential smuggling or illegal crossings on the borders, no matter where you are, then you should contact local authorities. And again, don't take it upon yourself to deal with it. Let's take a look next at another concern, and that is, of course, the cross-border issue when it comes to data breaches. So this story that we're looking at here is, I'll read that one out to you as well, and that's cross-border data concerns mount as the Doge team's Treasury access sparks legal challenges and privacy fears. Once again, that has to do with any company or individual that's done business or any type of information breaches or, sharing with the U.S. If you are a Canadian taxpayer or a Canadian citizen and you have links to businesses or investments, properties, so forth across the border, the U.S. government and Canadian government share a lot of data systems and data sets, and therefore it is creating a big concern with Doge being able to access that. So let's take a look at this article here. The intricate web of data sharing between Canada and the United States designed to combat financial crime and tax evasion has come under intense scrutiny amid revelations about the Doge team's access to sensitive U.S. Treasury Department databases. The situation has ignited a firestorm of privacy concerns, legal challenges, and heightened anxieties about the security of cross-border financial information. At the heart of this issue lies the complex legal framework governing data exchange between the two nations. Tax treaties designed to prevent the tax evasion and facilitate the sharing of income and financial activity details of individuals and businesses operating across borders. While the treaties are crucial for ensuring tax compliance, they inherently raise concerns about the potential erosion of data privacy. Established legal channels exist for information exchange between Canada and the United States authorities intended to operate securely and in compliance with relevant laws, and that includes privacy laws. However, the increasing digitalization of financial data introduces new vulnerabilities, creating pathways for potential breaches and unauthorized access. In the U.S., the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, plays a pivotal role in combating money laundering and other financial crimes. FinCEN collects and analyzes financial data, and mechanisms are in place for sharing relevant information with international partners, including Canada. The Corporate Transparency Act, which mandates many small businesses to report their beneficial ownership to FinCEN, further contributes to the vast pool of sensitive personal data held by the U.S. government, and that can even be extended to those who file W-8s and related tax forms with the U.S. for U.S. income. These data sharing mechanisms, while essential for law enforcement and regulatory purposes, are not without risk. Experts warn that interconnected systems are inherently vulnerable to data breaches. Illegal access to databases could expose sensitive financial information of both U.S. and Canadian individuals and businesses with potentially devastating consequences. The Doge team's access to the U.S. Treasury databases has amplified these concerns. The Treasury Department's databases hold a treasure trove of highly sensitive information, including individual and business tax records, social security data, as well as critical financial details. Access to this information raises acute privacy concerns with the potential for identity theft, financial fraud, and other harms. Concerns have also been raised about the potential misuse of this data. Critics fear that the Doge team's access could be exploited for political purposes or to target specific individuals or groups. The specter of arbitrary and capricious political control of federal payments looms large, with the potentially far-reaching economic and social repercussions. Cybersecurity risks are also a major concern. Granting access to sensitive government databases to external parties inherently increases the risk of data breaches and cyber attacks. Questions have been raised about the adequacy of cybersecurity safeguards to protect these highly sensitive databases. The cross-border implications of this situation are particularly significant. The tax treaty between Canada and the United States facilitates a flow of tax information between the two countries. Any breach or misuse of U.S. Treasury data could potentially expose Canadian tax information, triggering serious concerns about the privacy of Canadian individuals and businesses. Recent reports have added fuel to the fire with the accounts of instances where Doge team members were granted greater database access than intended. Legal action has been taken to restrict the team's access, underscoring the seriousness of this situation. Concerns persist about the level of experience and ethical oversight of Doge team members in handling such sensitive information. While the Treasury Department asserts that safeguards were implemented, the controversy highlights the inherent risks associated with such access. In essence, the situation underscores the delicate balance between government transparency, efficiency, and the paramount need to protect sensitive personal and financial information. The interconnected nature of financial systems between countries like Canada and the US means that vulnerabilities in one system can have a profound ripple effect across the border. Adding a new layer to this unfolding story, ProPix Canada Media, ourselves here, have been exploring legal avenues to sue Elon Musk, the United States government, and all Musk-related companies, Doge organization members, and others in relation to the alleged breach of our data from the aforementioned actions and activities of Doge. Other members of the business and general public interested in getting involved in holding Doge and the U.S. government and Musk companies accountable can reach out to truecrimeandjusticetv@gmail.com. And again, that's truecrimeandjusticetv@gmail.com if you have any interest in joining that motion or that action against Doge and others from the Canadian standpoint that our data has been breached by them and they have no right to our Canadian data. This potential legal action signals a growing determination to hold those responsible and accountable for any breaches of data privacy and underscores the gravity of the situation. The developments in this case will be closely watched on both sides of the border as the debate over data security and cross-border information sharing intensifies. So keeping in mind that at this time, of course, Donald Trump and his administration are looking to implement the tariffs and other measures in order to financially cripple the Canadian economy. The fact that the Doge team has accessed the Treasury Department information in the US and it is linked to the Canadian systems and potentially gives them a lot of sensitive data on Canadian companies, Canadian individuals, and the Canadian government to even, that should be a major concern of a further threat to Canada's sovereignty and our laws and the tax treaties that we have with the US. As the further concerns of the Doge team and Elon Musk and his related companies, we can take a look as an example of a potential threat as Grok, his AI system, and the fact that that is machine learning and data fed. So with more information that Elon Musk's AI systems have to continue with the machine learning and AI development, all of that information that is in the Treasury Department system, the Canadian Treasury systems, or CRA as we call it, that should be of big concern because all of that data that they have access through Doge, whether it's read-only or not, we don't know the extent and the reliability of the reports coming out. For all we know, all of our information as Canadians, Americans, and others around the world that have tax treaties or have tax liabilities in the US and reporting liabilities or responsibilities, all of that information could be utilized to grow the AI system that Elon Musk has. Now, that not only gives us greater concern for privacy breaches and the breach of our data to third parties and outside parties, but also the fact that it would give him an unfair advantage over other corporate entities who are trying to train and compete in the artificial intelligence world. again, those are major concerns, and we're taking action to try to go after them for the breach of Canadian data through the access port of the Treasury Department of the United States of America. This is not acceptable, and again, with the attempts and the pressure by Trump to try and annex Canada, to force Canada into an economic submission, the fact that they had access to these systems should be even more disturbing to every Canadian. And again, it should be a concern to every American as well, in the fact that they could be using that information to program their AI systems and to further track and profile every American across the country and around the world. So again, you've been watching ProPix TV. I am James, coming to you with Live Chat with James. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, if you have ideas for other topics, by all means put them into the comment section. Always happy to hear from the viewers. Welcome Mauricio, ABC News 2023, Delia Padilla, Netfrost. Welcome everyone to the live episode. We're pretty much done for tonight, so we're going to wrap it up. But again, if you are watching the rebroadcast, by all means, put your comments in the comment section or the response sections, and we do read them. So we like to get story ideas and to answer questions in future episodes from the comments that you leave, because we want you to be a part of the program. Once again, you've been watching Live Chat with James here on ProPix TV, coming from the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe, and thanks again for tuning in.